Flying Lotus Flamurga. I hope I said that right. I'm sick, guys, so if I sound just bad, that's just it. That's just it. I'm sorry. And I just wanted to talk to you about this album that I just listened to, and I'm just excited about. Let's get into it. So if you don't know who Flying Lotus is, he's like a DJ, he's a producer, he makes his own music and beats and everything, and this is his newest project that features plenty of different artists and different collaborators on this project, because he had this idea, he had this vision of this album, which had to do a lot with fire, and that's just because of this one monologue that David Finch gives, or story that he gives, and it inspired this album essentially, from what I understand at least. Flying Lotus has just been kind of one of those innovators in the music industry. This is Flying Lotus's first album since 2014, and how is it? Now let me talk about it a little bit. So the best way to talk about this album is to talk it as a piece, because this is definitely a piece of music. Like, it feels like from start to finish it is a complete project that feels like it's a movement of some sort, or a movie. It literally feels like that when you're listening to this album. Not a bad thing, by the way. It just feels like it all flows together seamlessly, especially more towards the end of the album, or the second half I should say, right up to the song The Fire Is Coming, with David doing a spoken word piece, which is very haunting and really brings out the visuals of the song, and I absolutely adore it. I'm actually kind of hoping this album's gonna turn into a movie, because it's so good. It is a odyssey to go through. Like, this is some insane stuff, and the musical pieces in here are very creative, and they're very moving, and even at times catchy. Like when you got Anderson .Paak on More, it just feels like an Anderson .Paak song with a little more different flair to it, because the thing that Flying Lotus brings to the table is a more neo-jazz feel, which is a electronic bass jazz infusion of sorts, because you got that bass, you got some string sections, and it seems like he did hire people to do this stuff, but it does sound like some of the drums on here do sound a little MIDI, or like they were samples of some sort at some points of the album, but that doesn't really bug me. It feels like they were very cleverly used and improvised here, and some of the stuff I've just heard on this album is just I've never heard before. At first, to me, it was a little jarring to hear some of this stuff, because it's just so different than what I'm used to listening to on a regular basis, and it was very enlightening. It's a very enlightening experience. It's very cinematic. It just makes you feel like you're sitting through an experience, and I can't say enough that is so appreciative. This is definitely a piece of art. Even if you don't like it or not, you gotta admit there's some artistic value here, especially with that album cover. That album cover is sick. Now, I will say some of the tracks on here do sound like they are just something that was formed on GarageBand and then just kind of is random, but maybe that's the point. Maybe he's experimenting. I feel like that's kind of a Flying Lotus thing to do, is to experiment with sound and music structure. So really, that's not even really a negative here. I just feel like some of that was just not as clean as it could have been, but at the same time, it's nice to hear someone try something that I would probably try to do, I guess. And he definitely pulls it off way better than I could probably pull it off with how some of these tracks go along. But overall, like, I've been digging every single track, and the thing is too with this album, the tracks are really short. Some of them are very short, but I feel like they were meant to be that way, because you're supposed to listen to this as one piece, or at least two separate pieces, because the first half does have a totally different vibe to it, in my opinion, than the second half. The second half feels like a more odyssey, with like songs with Andromeda really making you feel like you're lifting off, where the first half feels a little more grounded, maybe, I guess. At least that's what I'm getting off here. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. That's just me. I also love the little tribute song to Mac Miller, which was very nice. The Thank You Malcolm song. Very, very touching. Very nice. So overall, I actually really like this album. I will say the shorter tracks are probably my favorite. It's not because they're short. It's just because I feel like he had this idea and he just squeezed it into a small section of the album in each section that he puts it in. I feel like some of the longer tracks do kind of drag on a little bit, but that's the point. I feel like these are sections where certain plot elements in his head are happening, and I don't know, that's how I see it. It's good. It's really good. I really recommend this album. This is kind of one of those albums you have to sit down and listen to, or else you're not going to get everything out of it, but you can also have it in the background. It's good background music too, but I feel like it deserves way more praise than that. Anyways, I do highly recommend you listen to this album, and I want to know what your favorite tracks are on this album, of course, and I hope you enjoyed this short little review. Anyways, peace.